Hello everybody, today we are renovating the Nookstone home in Oasis Springs. I started this build thinking it will be quick and that I can have a shorter YouTube video for you, but as I continued building it just took me such a long time to figure out some stuff, especially like rocks and wallpapers. I cut most of it out, but just a warning, it will be a pretty long video. Also, I toned down the acceleration of the speed build because I thought the last renovation was a bit quick, as in like the movements almost could make you like motion sick kind of, because I was moving the camera around quite a bit. So I didn't accelerate it as much as the last video in here, which also contributed to the longer part of the video. Anyways, here I am trying to figure out where I want the rooms to be, and I wanted to figure out a good layout for the walls. I messed around with it quite a bit, but then stick to this simple thing you can see here, with the bathroom being 3x3 and a little office in front of it 2x3. Also, I couldn't decide which archway I wanted to use, so I had both of them there for a while. At this point I already tried every window in the game, and I decided to go with those modern ones, which are my favorite at the moment. Luckily they are base game, so everybody has them. For the kitchen counters I used the brown base game ones, which fit the modern vibes I was going for quite nice, and the kitchen clutter set refrigerator with the post-its on it, since it was a family home. I thought it makes sense for the family to have drawings and art on the fridge. Here I'm trying to figure out the space for the desk, and I decided to go with the smaller frame for the door because it gives it more of a nook. I used those interior design doors, which also kind of are my favorite in the game, and I used the shelf from Little Simsy's Cozy Gamer kit, which has a lot of space to put clutter in, which I did then later in the video. For the bathroom I decided to use the same counters as in the kitchen, and I made like a custom vanity, and I tried every sink in this game and used the one that I placed last in white. Also, I don't like how the mirrors all are so high up, especially when you place them over a sink. I wish I could just lower them with the 0 key, but unfortunately we can only put it higher on the wall with the 9 key. But I tried to make it work with the shelves next to it, and I like how it turned out, but it just is a little bit too high. In the last speed build I placed the clutter as the last step before finishing up the whole build, and now for this build I decided to put the clutter down as I was building the room, and not going back after to add them in, which made the rooms come together a bit faster, and it looked done quite quicker, in my opinion. I decided that I wanted to have green accents in this bathroom and later all over the house, because normally I use a lot of blue and yellow and sometimes also a lot of red, so I wanted to go a different route and use green, which I don't use that often. But sadly, there aren't really a lot of green rugs, so I decided to use I think it's from Seasons, the leafy color swatch, which also has a bit of orange, which I then integrated in the color scheme of the kids' room that I'm going to build afterwards. For the office nook, I wanted to carry the green accents out of the bathroom, and then I found this growing together desk, but I thought it fit much better in the kids' room, so I put it there for now. Also, removing the wall gives me better access to the desk, so I can decorate it more easily without the wall always being in my view. I later changed the desk to the one of Little Sims's kit, because I just recently got it and haven't used it as much. And I decided to use the green desk mat and only put one pegboard behind the desk that I can put clutter on it, because I thought having two was a bit much. I really love those pastel colors in her kit. I think Kayla did a wonderful job in planning and creating this kit for us. And as a book girly myself, I really love the flipped and put upside down book that I can put everywhere on every surface, and I also love the swatches on them. Some are funny, like one has a toast with cheese on it or something, and the other ones look kind of like Dungeons and Dragons handbooks with the wizards and stuff. And here I put the wall back, and then it was time to figure out the wallpaper, which I actually cut out most of it, of my decision making, because once again I really struggled with picking the right color of it, and then I went with those aubergine wallpaper that you saw me put down. For the couch, I wanted to use one that was green and also very comfy looking, so the book nook kit was way too blue, and I decided to go with the other one. Also, I didn't like these chairs, so I switched them out for the one I was using in the office. And then I tried to make an entrance kind of situation with a little place where you can put your keys and spare change, and a place to hang the bags as well. And I love this put together shelf that we got during Pride Month a year back, I think. I'm not sure when they added it to the base game, but I really like this one. I also love this tiny living entrance or kind of wardrobe thing, which has a lot of space to put things on top of it. I think it fits quite well in every entrance, and the wood colors also look kind of great. I wanted to use a welcome mat and I kind of struggle with the rug UI. There's just so much in it, and most of it is just cats and dogs, like the paw prints and those put my food bowl here mats, and I always lose the rugs that I'm looking for. Also, later on when I am furnishing the bedroom, I just was scrolling and scrolling, and I just could not find the rug that I was looking for because I scrolled past it like a million times. It's getting so frustrating. I think some of the build UI, they have to change up. Also, those decals in the wall decoration menu, there are just so many little cats that are just sitting, or the paw prints and stuff, and the posters. I think we really need an upgrade there, where you can filter by decals, by posters, by framed paintings, by picture walls, and this sort of thing, because it just is so messy in it. Moving on to the landscaping, which I try to match a little bit to the surrounding world. As you can see behind on the rock, there are also these yellow or white daisies and those spiky plants. I added in trees that are found in the surrounding area, and which I also put on my first house that I built for YouTube. And after I placed down all the grass and the landscaping, I did do terrain paint, but as I later noticed, it just disappeared. Well, I built the house in like 2 or 3 sittings, so I closed and reopened the game in between quite a few times, and this is a known bug where your terrain paint just disappears when going to manage worlds or reloading the lot. So it kind of was my fault for doing it so early on, but I really didn't have the problem before, ever. So now I just cut it out in the video because I did it later on again. Moving on to the inside, I tried to find a bed that I liked, and I decided to go with this dinosaur one. And for the color scheme of this child's room, I decided to go with a orangey yellow kind of color scheme, even if it's not really showing up in the bed sheets. A lot of simmers, and me included, most of the time, pick the kind of bed depending on the bed sheets and the color scheme of the room. For example, I could have chosen an orange bed sheet for this kind of color scheme, but in real life, most people that I know of don't really choose the kind of bed sheets that they use according to their color scheme of the room. For example, my walls, I have 2 walls that are pink in my room and 2 walls that are white, and they have been like that since I was like 6 years old, when I could decide what kind of color I wanted on my walls. And my bed sheets range from gray to pink to, I also used to have a lot of green bed sheets, and now my favorite ones are the purple ones that my grandma had before. And right now it's like white and kind of a coral color that don't really match with my purple walls, with my pink walls I mean. And I just don't really know of anybody that chooses the kind of bed sheets according to the colors of the wall. They just go with their like favorite colors, or the sushi of the bed sheets. Like if they like horses, they might have a horse one. So I figured that the kids' favorite color might be yellow and orange, but they really like dinosaurs as well. So they were just going to buy the dinosaur bed sheets. I also hung up those posters of the Tooth Fairy. I think the little tooth is adorable, and it surprisingly matched the sheets, which I was not intentionally going for. I figured with a desk like that, the kid that lives here in this room is a kind of crafty kid, so I also put the friendship bracelet box down, which came in growing together, and then I put down a thermostat that I mostly put by the front door, so it's always in the same place, because I also have already lost it in the house once and didn't know where to put it, so I then ended up with two. I also here am putting some board games I want to put in the shelf for later, just so that I don't have to scroll and look for them later on. Also, finding this backpack in the build buy mode was really challenging, because it somehow is not listed under decorations, which I thought that it was. It's not under sculptures, it's not under miscellaneous. I just couldn't find it anywhere by scrolling. Maybe I scrolled past it 100 times without noticing, but then I decided to just type the word bag in the search bar, which also didn't show up. So I typed the word bag for like backpack, and then I finally found it. But I cut out most of that process because the video was just going to get so long of endless scrolling without result, and I figured you didn't need to see that. Moving on to the parents' bedroom. For this room, I wanted to use a bedsheet that fits the color scheme, because this parent seems very decoraty to me, and maybe they want to incorporate their bed sheets in the room design. I also tried to make space for an infant crib, but since this house only has one separate kids room, I just ended up deleting the crib and the changing table, because I figured when the child grows up there isn't much space for it. So I just put down a dresser and a standing up mirror. I also put the seasons painting that I like quite a lot, and I barely use because it's just so big, but somehow it fit perfectly in here. I also love those hanging cards on the cord, and I am just pretending that the kid made them for their parent, and I think, if I remember correctly, I put like the birthday swatch on it. I don't really like any of those bedside lamps that I have in my game. I don't have purchased every pack that exists, but with those that I have, I like the Book Nook kit stand-up lamps the most, so I decided to go with them in here. I wanted to make this bookshelf wall because I thought that the room was kind of empty, and with adding it in, it just gave it so much more dimension. But now the bed is not centered with the window anymore, which kind of bothered me, but I just wanted the bookshelves more than a centered bed, so I just chose not to care. Not all of the clutter items can fit in the bookshelves, sadly, which was kind of hard to furnish because of that, because it was just slotting in a really weird way. Oh, and look, I adjusted the window. I forgot about that part. So now the bed is centered with the window again. Also, I used my favorite curtains in the game again, and I also love this kind of I don't even know how it's called. The one thing that I put over the curtain rod. It came in like the Desert Deluxe kit or whatever it was called, or Backyard Oasis, I think. And I use this everywhere, which makes it look way more modern than just the metal bar over the window. Anyways, as you can see, I have put down a rug, which also was the journey that I cut out. I mentioned it before in the video. And now I am just placing down the clutter and changing the colors accordingly. And I really love how this dresser turned out, because it just looks so lived in, and it makes so much sense that it is next to the door, because all those spare keys, spare coins next to it, and like the jewelry and the makeup stand, it just fits so perfectly for the vibe that I was going for. Also, now I'm putting the clutter inside the shelf, which also has like pre-slotting places where like the medium slots are defined and the one where the big things can slot are defined, which I think is a little bit sad, because technically every cube of this shelf is the same size, but somehow not all sizes of clutter can fit everywhere, which is making it a lot harder for me to decorate, but I think I ended up with a layout that I liked. I then decided to add in a half wall, which was the same height as the kitchen counter, just to define the living room space and the kitchen and divide them from each other. I also wanted to place those chess board game, but I couldn't fit a coffee table, so I just used this side table next to the window, where I also put this cool speaker on. Most of the time when I am building, I use this wall color as a default one, because it gives the room a bit of color. It's not just white, which makes the room often look very sad in my opinion. So with this kind of neutral color, kind of colorful color, it just makes furnishing the rooms much easier for me. And once again, I had a really hard time figuring out what kind of rug I wanted to use. Previously, in those teen hangout space, I used this, I think it's from Season, the purple one that you can see, but here I just didn't like that it was not exactly the same color as the wallpaper that I used behind the green curtains. So I decided to go with this red, pinkish, white one instead. Also, I decided that this family needs to have a cat. So I decided to put in a cat bed in green and a food bowl and also a cat tree, which I used in brown. I then switched out the cat bed for some more greenery, which I thought there was something missing in this corner, so I just exchanged it. And I figured no cat ever sleeps in their bed anyways. They always sleep on the couch, on the owner's bed, in boxes, in random baskets, but never in their designated cat space, so I just got rid of it anyway. Also, I put this big mirror in the entryway to check yourself before the sim is leaving the house. And then I went on with cluttering the kitchen, which is a very much enjoyable part for me. I also like to line up those cleaning supplies with this drying space on this kitchen clutter sink. And I decided, since the person that is going to live here is kind of a bookish person, they probably would want to have a book tray and a coffee mug next to the couch, so I put that on the counter. For a short moment you can see me scoot the food bowl away and then it just jumps. I made a cut there because I went back and forth with the trash can placement, and first I decided I don't like it, so I'm just not going to give the Sims a trash can inside. They can use the one outside or the sink. And then later, when I'm on the outside part, on the backyard, I put a grill down and then I put the trash can next to it, so they have a little bit of easier access to it anyway, which you will be able to see in a second. I knew I wanted to have a patio chair and a patio table that went with the chairs, so I used the blue umbrella one, and then later I realized that it actually is a partly covered backyard, and part of the sun umbrella is actually underneath the roof. So I changed the table but still use the same chairs because I really love those backyard stuff kit chairs and love seats. I decided to give them a kiddie pool and those seasons lanterns, and I kind of made the story up behind them that the kid crafted them, which I always think is a nice detail to put like some thoughts behind what I put down. And I also put down those bikes, one for the parent and one for the kid, so they can go on bike trips together. Also, you can see me landscaping again because the game was so rude and deleted the first terrain paint. But yeah, I learned from my mistakes and the game's bugs, so I probably won't do the landscaping coloring for the next build like in the middle of it, and I will wait to do it until the end. I just finished up the outdoors with a little backyard lamp and then adding or changing the roof texture and the roof trim. And here are the final pictures. I really hope you enjoyed this speed build with me, and I'm happy to see you on the next video. Bye everybody!